Right now, you have clothes on. You likely didn't spend more than a few seconds making that choice this morning. Maybe you just grabbed the closest shirt, or maybe you checked the weather. Either way, before walking out the door, you put something on because covering up is just what humans do. In every climate and across every era of history, every culture on Earth wears clothes. You might assume early humans started wearing clothes for basic reasons, like warmth, protection, or modesty. But none of these are the actual reason we began covering up. Once you discover what really drove early humans to wear clothes, it will completely change how you view fashion, culture, language, and what it means to be a creature that looks in the mirror and feels the pressure of being seen. Let's check the timeline. Modern humans have anatomically existed for about 300,000 years. However, if you look at the physical evidence, tools like hide scrapers and bone needles only appear around 120,000 years ago. Even that is a generous guess. Most textile historians believe the widespread use of clothing started about 75,000 years ago. This means that for the first half of human history, we survived mostly naked under the hot African sun. We dealt with cold nights, insects, and thorns with completely bare bodies. This fact instantly rules out warmth as the main explanation. Sure, humans eventually migrated to colder climates where clothing was essential, but the use of clothing actually started before that, while we still lived in the tropics. So, warmth only mattered later. The second most common explanation is protection from insect bites, rocks, and thorns. While that plays a part, there is a big issue with this logic. If protection was the primary goal, humans would have started by covering their hands and feet, which take the most damage. Instead, early clothing, in almost every culture, first covered the groin and torso, the least exposed areas. That isn't just a practical choice. It points to something deeper. Then we have the lice theory, which is truly fascinating. In 2003, geneticists started studying something very unexpected: lice. Specifically, the evolutionary split between body lice and head lice. Head lice survive in hair, but body lice live strictly in clothing. They literally cannot survive without fabric. By tracing when these two species separated, scientists found a clue about when humans started wearing clothes consistently, enough for a parasite to depend on it. The answer is roughly 170,000 years ago. That is the oldest biological timestamp we have for clothing. It wasn't found through a scraping tool or a bone needle, but through a parasite. This proves when humans started wearing clothes, because an insect evolved specifically to live in them. However, that date only tells us when the habit was established, not why. The true origin stretches back much further than we can measure. The real reason is buried much deeper than lice, needles, or fabric. Researchers are now arguing that clothing wasn't a practical invention at all. It was a symbolic one. In 2009, an archaeologist named Ian Gilligan published a detailed analysis on clothing and human thought. He suggested that covering the body isn't just about utility. It reflects an advanced level of thinking that separates humans from other animals. To wear clothes, you must be able to imagine a future version of yourself. You have to look at an animal hide, picture yourself wearing it, figure out how to make it usable, and then execute the plan. It sounds simple, but it requires memory, future planning, and foresight. It's the exact same mental ability we use to plan our days, keep promises, or worry about events that haven't happened yet. No other animal on Earth does this. A chimpanzee doesn't look at a leaf and imagine how it might be useful tomorrow, but humans did. The moment we started putting clothes on our bodies, we weren't just protecting our skin. We were physically demonstrating our ability to think ahead for the very first time. Clothing is one of the earliest physical artifacts of the modern human mind. But beneath all of that, there is something, even deeper, something most evolutionary. Biologists ignore when discussing this topic: shame. Not shame in a religious way, but in a neurological sense. It is the awareness of being perceived. The intense feeling that your body is being observed and evaluated by others. This experience is uniquely human. It requires something psychologists call the theory of mind, the ability to step outside of yourself and imagine how you look through someone else's eyes. Crows don't have this. Dogs don't have this. Even chimpanzees, our closest relatives, barely show traces of it. But somewhere in our evolution, humans developed this deeper awareness. We gained the ability to see ourselves through the eyes of others. Once that clicked, everything changed. Life wasn't just about surviving anymore. It became about how you looked, how people perceived you, and the signals you sent to others. From then on, clothing was no longer just about covering up. It became a tool to shape your identity and control your image. The first person to wrap an animal skin around their body wasn't just trying to stay warm. They were actively choosing how they wanted to be seen, and once that idea took root, it never went away. You can see this behavior across cultures all over the world, even in places like the Pacific Islands or the Amazon, where clothing wasn't needed for warmth. People still decorated themselves. Whether it was paint, beads, tattoos, simple fibers, or feathers, there was always something. The body was never just a body. Researchers studying different cultures have found a very consistent pattern. The urge to dress up accelerates rapidly when human social groups become more complex. As tribes expanded, as hierarchies formed, and as strangers began interacting, clothing turned into a social technology. It became an instant communication system. Long before you even spoke to someone, their clothing told you exactly who they were. It showed what group they belonged to, if they were an ally or a threat, and whether they ranked above or below you. Clothing is a language, and it is one of the oldest forms we have. And here's the part that should make you stop and think. Because it applies to you right now. Every morning you get dressed without thinking much about it. But every time you do, your brain is performing an ancient, deeply social routine. You aren't just picking out fabric. You are constructing the version of yourself that you want to project to the world. You are balancing who you are, who you want people to see, and what the current situation demands. That wave of anxiety you feel when you show up underdressed, overdressed, or wearing the wrong outfit for the moment. That is 170,000 years of social cognition kicking in. That is your brain running the exact same calculations your ancestors ran while sitting around the fire. We solved the basics of survival, cold, and protection a long time ago. But we didn't stop there. Our clothing just became more intentional and more detailed. That's because fashion was never really about the body. It was always about the mind, the part of us that knows we are being watched. Clothing didn't just cover us up. It created a version of us. We didn't start wearing clothes because we were cold. We started wearing them because we became self-aware. We realized that others could see us, and that feeling never went away. Tomorrow, you will get dressed just like you always do. But underneath that daily routine, an ancient instinct is still working. You aren't just putting on clothes. You are choosing how to be seen, carrying on the exact same instinct humans have had for thousands of years.